Okay, so welcome back for a moment, right? Because we're together today and then we're off on Wednesday. We don't have class Wednesday. I know some of you were sending me emails last week, Wednesday, like, I'm waiting to get into class, but then we communicated. So just remember, I'll say it again at the end of class next week. This week on Wednesday, we do not have class. And then after that, it should be pretty regular for the rest of the semester. There's Thanksgiving and all that other stuff, but that doesn't really affect us. So
What's going on Wednesday?
Wednesday is Yom Kippur.
Oh,
Jewish holidays.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, the
Thursday
school.
too.
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. So if you have class Thursday, you probably don't have class on Thursday. But first this class goes, we just don't have class on Wednesday. So thank you to all who did the symbolism paragraph assignment. We're going to begin with that today. I commented on them, so on all of them, even right up until a few minutes ago. I think I got a couple of the last ones finished because I wanted to make sure they were all done before class began. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to read some more poems, and then we'll talk about next week. So so in terms of the exercise of doing this focused paragraph on symbolism or on one poetic element is part of it's like a building block or step to you writing your essay, right? So your essay, the essay that you're going to be writing for this class, for the poetry, which is due in a couple of weeks, is going to be asking you to look at any of the poems that we read or any of the poems in the packet and to identify and speak about poetic elements in it. So symbolism is an example of a poetic element. So the idea of you could write a whole essay on symbolism, right? You could decide, I love this paragraph. Or you could use one poem and write about different poetic elements inside of the poem. Some of you did that. Some of you talked about, did the first poem for you and spoke about so many different elements that are inside of that poem. Some of you spoke about the queen. Not only did you talk about the queen as a symbol, but you also talked about the carpet being a symbol and the crown being a symbol and the church the hymns being a symbol, right? So that, so you could see even within a poem, you could only talk about one poetic element, but talk about it in a lot of different ways, right? So, so I want you to start thinking about that, because what we're doing with the exercise in the writing and the reading, I want you to start thinking that, what you might want to write your essay on. So the handout that we looked at, we're going to look at that a little bit today, a little more today, and then we'll look a little bit more on next week, Monday. But the handout also talked about poetic elements, right? And a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just regrouping our brains because I haven't seen you in a while. So so we talked about some of the things like alliteration, right? That's another element that happens in poetry when they're using sound. Rhyming is another element that's used in poetry. Imagery, we've talked about imagery, how the five senses use, how something could be visual, how something could create sound, onomatopoeia words, or words that actually are words that sound like the sound they're supposed to make. So all of these things, when I say poetic elements, it's all of these things that we're talking about, right? So you have a wide menu of things to look at in a poem. We started talking last class also about theme, right? What is the theme in a poem, right? What is the main story and the main idea inside of a poem? That is also considered an element. So you could write essays that look at themes, right? So right now I wanted us to focus on symbolism, right? And part of it, I wanted us to do it in almost I'm going to say mechanical kind of way, right? Not necessarily mechanical, but I wanted you to be able to look at the different elements, right? The different pieces of it. So when we talk about a paragraph, right? Usually the first sentence, right, is the sentence that introduces what the paragraph is going to be about. And that sentence is called a topic sentence, right? So in this case, the topic was symbolism, right? And so if you looked at the example, and we're going to look at some examples from class. So if you look at the example that I gave you, it gave you the poem, it kind of talked about it, and then it gave you an example of of what to talk about, right? So first it named the poet and the poem, then it named that it was going to talk about symbolism, and then it described what symbolism was, and then it found examples of symbolism and explanations of them, right? So if you could think of that not as a rule, but as a rhythm, right, of constructing a paragraph. So let's say if you're going to write an essay, and one paragraph was going to be about symbols, another paragraph was going to be about imagery, and another paragraph was going to be about rhyming, let's just say, right? If you were writing an essay that was going to talk about symbols, that was going to talk about imagery, and was going to talk about rhyming, right? So then you would think that the paragraph that's going to talk about symbols is going to begin with what? Symbols, right? The paragraph that is going to talk about imagery would begin with the topic sentence would be imagery, and the same would be for the paragraph that would be talking about what did I say, rhyming, right? So you would only talk about symbolism in the symbolism paragraph. You would only talk about imagery in the imagery paragraph, and you would only talk about rhyming in the rhyming paragraph, right? So it's important for us to be able to understand how you focus on one topic in one paragraph and to be able to talk about it and to write a paragraph. And so sometimes students will say, like, I don't know what to write about. Like, I'm going to write about a symbol and then I explain one sentence and then I'm done, right? But this exercise was giving you what the elements are to do a nice, juicy paragraph, right? So this one will be a little different because you're not going to name the poet in the poem in every topic, in every paragraph, because you would have named that in your introduction, right? So you know that you're talking about that poem. But in this case, the idea of writing what the topic is, right? And again, I'm going to pretend that it's not your professor who's reading it, right? But somebody who doesn't know anything about the class, right? That if it's like you have a little 7-year-old nephew, not at that level you're going to write, but that the 7-year-old does not know what symbolism is, right? So that what you would do is in every topic, you would define what it is you're talking about, right? You will define your topic. So your paragraph should name your topic, should define it, and then give examples from the text, right? And explain them. So that's kind of the structure of a solid paragraph that's going to be inside of your essays, right? Now it's starting in a different place, right? Because you think, well, Professor, why aren't we just starting on writing an essay from the introduction, right? Because that's the beginning, right? But I think it's important. I'm starting with this because the introduction, there are rules for the introduction, but each body paragraph of an essay is important to be able to understand the construction of that. So, and that is the meat of what you're talking about. So let's go back to the assignment. So, so I gave quick comments on them because I wanted you just to see whether you hit the mark or you didn't, right? And this is just an assignment, right? So not to feel like if the professor was like, you didn't name the symbolism, not that you got it wrong, but I think that for you to understand that what was the difference between what you understood the assignment to be and what was expected, right? The difference between, and so we're gonna take a look at some examples so we could look at them and see examples of some of your work. I didn't, the names are not attached to them, but some examples of works that are strong and some that needed a little bit more information or a little more direction to be a little more direct, right? So any questions with what I'm saying so far? No, you're all with me. You're all on the train. Did I give you that metaphor of the kindergarten kids on the train?
Professor, I just
Yes.
Registered to your class late.
Wait,
Would it
who's-
be able for me to still send in the assignment, or don't worry about it already?
No, you should, Yanedis. I'm going to tell you, you should do the assignment. And even if some of you did not do the assignment, you should do it, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
we don't have class on Wednesday. So I have time to take a look at it. And part of it is like right now, if you did the assignment, you know what I'm talking about, right? You already wrote the paragraph. You know whether you did a good job or what was good about it. But if you haven't written about it, you don't understand not that you don't understand the words, what I'm saying, right? Of course you understand the words I'm saying. I'm speaking English and you all understand it too, right? But you don't have the experience of what I'm talking about. And then when I go through these examples, it's gonna, hopefully that'll help you as well. But those who did the assignment have a different experience of this class than those who haven't done it. But those who haven't done it should still do it because you're in the class, you're hearing it, and then you're gonna do it, and then I'm gonna comment on you. So it's important that what you write about, I comment. So that's how the dialogue is happening between the two of us, how we start talking about and learning about how you write and what you write. So it's important. So all of you, I wrote really comments more about whether you got the symbolism in it or not. That's what I did. With most of you, I'm going to go back and also do what I did with the other one and work on some of the grammatical things just in your paragraph, so we can continue building on those things in that inside of that paragraph. So you're going to get more feedback on the paragraph. Gregory, I saw your hand up. No? Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. So everybody is with me, and Yanidis, welcome. This is your first time in class with us?
Yes, today is
Okay.
my first class with you.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, glad you're here.
Thank you.
Cool. So hold on one second. I'm gonna share my screen. It'll take me a second because I have to get out of one thing and bear with me one more moment.
Hey, Professor, when you get the chance, I also have one question because I did like register late, so it is my first day here as well. And I seem like you have these two assignments there, but I just needed like a clear understanding of what exactly am I supposed to do, like for the reflection. But whenever you get the chance, no worries.
Yeah, what we could do is usually at the end of class, I'll hang out for a minute and you can ask me questions.
Okay, good.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to share my screen. Somebody showed me how to share one part, but so I just do that. Share. So here's an example of, I'm going to make this small. So. Here's an example of a poem, and I'm going to see if I can make it bigger. But you can see it in case anybody's on their phone. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to do this together. So in the poem, The Queen by Pablo Neruda, right, uses symbolism to indicate readers that he noticed this image of a woman different from any other. There is more than just love. When you go through the streets, no one recognizes you. No one sees your crystal crown. No one looks at the carpet of red gold that you tread as you pass, the non-existent copper. The woman is perfect for him. Let me just fix it here. It's perfect for him, even though no one sees her as perfect as he calls her queen. This means that love is co-substantial. In other words, it's always real, not an image. Pablo Neruda in the poem, The Queen, is a description of how love is humanized through his poem. This gives the reader a very detailed image of a woman who he loved, that he saw as a queen that was only for him. Okay, so I just read this to you all, and I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, right? And leave the grammatical bumps. In your opinion, do you think it was a good paragraph in terms of symbolism? Did they do a good job of describing symbolism, identifying symbolism? What was your opinion?
I think honestly, I think it was good because symbolism, like in the poem, it was more imagery than there was a symbolism. But I do see where, like, throughout the whole poem, he was describing how he feels, for his queen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other
so I think it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, like for me, it's like the words that were used, like crown and red carpet. For me, I see these things when I hear these words like crown and red carpet. I look at it as a different way. But when I read it in this poem, it's a little more deeper than that.
Yes, okay. But what
Can
about
I
the
say
paragraph?
something?
Oh, sure.
I believe it missed an order of the way that it should be written. Like it started with the queen, and it should follow a sequence in the timeline of how it was told in the poem.
Okay, so
That
you're
is something when
noticing-
it comes to writing, like I try to follow that myself. The way that a story is told, you should follow if it happened first, second, and last. You shouldn't start saying something about the story or the poem from something that happened at the end and started in the beginning of the paragraph. For me, I don't know, that's something that I learned through writing.
What I want to say to that is that that is one path, but I think what I want to take from what you're saying, and is one of the things with the poem, with that sentence, with that paragraph, is organizing, right? Whether Johnny, whether you do it chronologically, which is what you're talking about, like what happens first, what happens second, what happens third, that is an order. That is not like the order, but you have to have some order, right? You have to have some kind of organization to the paragraph, okay? So with the paragraph, it's
Can I ask you something, Professor? Sorry,
Sure.
to learn. When it comes to poem, you use the same organization, or you can just start from anywhere?
Well, let's just talk about the paragraph, right?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that with a paragraph, right? A paragraph for an essay. This is almost a paragraph for anything, but a paragraph for an essay, particularly the essays that we're writing, right? It's important that you identify a topic sentence, at least in the first sentence, if not the first sentence and the second sentence. You shouldn't go beyond the second sentence without explaining what your paragraph is about, right? Particularly we're writing short essays. So it's important to do that in the first or second sentence. So that's one of the things to think about, right? When you're working on this. The second thing that I'm asking you to do, and you may not need to be as literal always, but for this class and for now, for this first essay, I'm also asking you to identify and define what the element is, right? So those are two things that you should be looking at within the first 1, 2, or 3 sentences that all of those things have happened. Mabel, Mabel, sorry.
When I was gonna add on, when we were talking about the parts of the poem, for me, the element was like imagery, because I feel like it took me to 2 different places. When I was thinking about when, I think it was Greg that mentioned the crystal crown and the red carpet, like for me, that was like, oh, royalty. And then when you say you appear, the river sound, and my body bells shake the sky, I felt like they were more out in nature. So I was like envisioning these experiences that he was describing with him. So for me, it was like, that was the element that I found.
Well, let's take both of what Mabel just said and what Greg said earlier, right? The words that Greg said, and let's talk about like what are the symbols in this story, in this poem, right? So if you're going to write a paragraph about symbolism, the first thing you need to be clear about, like, what are the symbols, right? And so definitely the crown is a symbol, the queen herself is a symbol, the carpet is a symbol, the hymn, the blood, the rivers, these are all symbols, right? So once you identify, like what I just named 5, right? So once you identify what the symbols are, then you have to tell us, what do they mean, right? What do they symbolize, right? So you have to be able to explain that as well. So that's some of the one of the things you'll have to do, that whether it's with whether it's symbolism, as Mabel just mentioned, imagery, whatever the element you're talking about, you have to be able to name what the element is, define the element, and to give clear examples of what they are. So with the paragraph that I shared with you, we're going to take a look at it again, right? And should take me less time to screen share.
I'm sorry, Professor, can you repeat that? Find the element, define the element, and what was the last one?
Find the element, define it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then explain and give examples.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sure. So if you look at the paragraph again, yeah, it really speaks about the elements in the play, in the poem, right? I keep saying play and everything, but in the poem, right? It talks about that. If you look at the first line, the poem, the uses the symbolism to indicate readers that he noticed the image of a woman different from any other. There is more than just love. When you go through the streets, and they go right into an example, but yet they haven't really told us what symbolism is, and they haven't really named a specific symbol, right? Then they go into this explanation. The next sentence says, the woman is perfect for him, even no one sees her as perfect as he calls her queen. This means that love is co-substantial. So there's a lot of ideas inside of this paragraph that are correct, right? They're right ideas about the poem, but they're not directly connecting. First of all, they're not directly identifying the symbol and saying what the symbol means, right? All the ideas are right. They're not wrong, right? And if I was saying write a reflection about this or write the meanings of the poem, that's what this paragraph would answer. And because they put the word symbol in there, symbolize it, doesn't necessarily mean that they're discussing it. So I want to use as an example so you could look at it, because I see that happens sometimes. That sometimes students will say, we use, I'm going to talk about imagery, and they'll say that in their topic sentence, and then they don't talk about imagery for the rest of the paragraph. They talk about themes inside of the themes that are inside of the poem. Greg?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because when I was doing my assignment, I was in this struggle with, is it wrong or right? Because, I'm reading the poem and I'm looking at the symbolism, but I see it one way, but other people could see it the other way. So I'm like, is there a right or wrong with describing these symbolisms? Like in the future, when we start doing our essays and stuff like that, should we be looking for the right or wrong, or should we just look at how we read this poem?
Johnny, you were shaking your head.
Oh, you've seen that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Yeah,
Sorry, Greg. No, because I feel this a kind of a way, like Greg. I feel that when I was writing, I was like, am I writing this as a symbolism or am I doing a reflection? Am I putting too much details?
Yeah.
Is this the right way? So I totally understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm trying to help us see the distinction, right? Because your first assignment was a reflection, right? And it was about, tell me what you see, tell me what you think, tell me what you feel, right? And it was an opportunity to reflect. And so this assignment should look different, right? This should look a little more technical. I'm using the word technical because you're speaking about something specific, not necessarily your feelings. So Greg, but in answer to your question about whether you got the interpretation of the symbol right, or the interpretation, that's how I'm understanding what you're asking, then I would say that's where the explaining and the example goes, right? So if you say, this is what I think this means, this symbolizes for this reason, and you're going to go back to the text, you're not going to go into the universe or to the thing. I mean, you will go a little bit, right? You will go a little bit into another direction, but because you were bringing knowledge into your own knowledge of your own experience into it. And I'm going to say specifically like the idea of a queen, right? And so one of the ideas of in terms of like using the queen as a symbol, like she's not really a queen, but what does a queen symbolize, right? A queen symbolizes somebody that you respect, somebody that has power, somebody that for certain has a certain element of regalness. There's somebody you revere, you feel reverent toward a queen. So all of these ideas of what a queen symbolizes are the feelings, right, that he's associating with his love. And he says it, this taller, this purer, but you're the queen, right? Johanny, you had your hand up or you took it down?
I explained it in the part that I did, Greg. What I did, I put how symbolism can be seen. One symbolism, like let's say the river can symbolize blood, but it can also symbolize something else in different area, depending how it's used in the poem.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you're saying is that, but when I did that, I expressed what I felt with this symbolism. But in the back of my head, because this is school, it's like, am I doing the right thing or is this wrong? It's like I was basing it, and I'm probably wrong, but because it's school and stuff like that, and it, you know, and it has to do sometimes with grades, it's like, am I identifying it as the professor is seeing it?
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I know
And
that
a lot,
with poem is very, very different because it's very personal. For me, poem is very different.
yeah.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
no, that's it.
All right, Adama.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My point is after identifying the symbol, and I was thinking if I have to use just to give just one symbol, or I have to give more than one symbol.
So I'm gonna give you a tip. The more symbols, the juicier the paragraph, right?
Can you
So
repeat that?
the more symbols, the stronger the paragraph. Like the paragraph is more juicy and it's clearer, right? So you're not just, so that's why also when you're thinking about what poetic elements to talk about in your poems, look for poems that have a lot that offer you a lot. And like, you know, as small as Neruda's poem is, and as small as even Kim Adenisia's poem is, between symbolism and imagery, they offer so much, right? And themes, they offer themes. We spoke a lot about themes with both these poems. Let's look at another example of a paragraph that was stronger. Okay, so let's just do that one. So I'm going to read you this paragraph, right? So this say discussing symbolism in Pablo Neruda's poem, The Queen. In his poem, The Queen, Pablo Neruda uses symbolism. Symbolism is a tool that is used by artists and writers when wanting to represent an abstract idea or when they want to convey an underlying meaning. It's used when the author or artist conveys a message far off from the literal meaning. For example, the use of heart means love. Symbolism in the poem can be found in the first stanza, I have named you queen. The author is saying he named her queen. As we continue to read, he starts describing her. He emphasizes that there might be someone taller, purer, lovelier, but you are the queen. It's like saying that for him, there is no one else above you. The narrator states, when you go through the streets, no one recognizes you. If she was a queen, who wouldn't recognize the queen? But the author is saying that they don't see her like he sees her. This symbolizes the female as an exceptional woman, and she is a queen, but figuratively in his eyes. As it follows, no one sees your crystal crown, the carpet of red gold, the non-existent carpet. Only Narita sees the crown in his special lady. She is a hierarchy in his heart. The crystal is a symbol of purity and transparency. The fact that he can see her in this way shows that he knows her imperfections and still accepts her as she is. The non-existent carpet represents how the holy ground she walks on is as the royalty she is to him. Neruda illustrates when you appear, all the rivers sound, bells shake, and the hymn fills the world. River sound represents peace or blood rushing. Bells shake the sky symbolizes his heart beating, and the hymn is spiritual, heavenly. Emotional Neruda is explaining that he feels her presence. These examples show how Neruda uses symbolism when writing and how one symbol can have many meanings in writing. So in this paragraph, you see a lot more of I mean, it's a big paragraph. You know, whatever. If that we were getting grades, that would be like an A+, right? Because they not only did they used lots of symbols, right? They talked about several of them. They explained what each one was. They connected it to it. They identified right at the beginning what symbolism was. And by the time you finish that paragraph, you have no question about what the symbols are and what they mean. So that's like, I wanted to use two examples that could juxtapose each other. And to see the first paragraph was not, you know, talked about the themes in the poem. It talks about, you know, the ideas behind the symbolism, but doesn't directly name it, doesn't directly explain what they are. So I want us to think about that as we continue working on our exercises and working on becoming very specific and very clear and using examples, right? And so a lot of times students say, again, when they say, I don't know what to write about, like symbolism, you know, the rose was a symbol of love, and I don't know what else to write about in the poem, that look for other symbols, explain more what it means, show the example from the text. And that's we can say the example is the evidence we say from the text. So I wanted to see that. Adama? Is that from before, or is that a new hand up?
No, it's sorry.
Oh, okay, it's from before. All right. Okay, I'm gonna do a bit of a Tarzan swing. Okay, so people have questions. Was that helpful to see the two different ones and for us to have this discussion on trying to be as specific as possible? This is not it. I mean, I'm gonna comment some more on all your pieces, and we'll keep, we have a few more exercises before the essays due. Next week, we'll be talking about specifically on Monday, I'm going to spend some time going over the assignment for the essay and talking to all of you about it. So, okay. So if you haven't done the assignment or you just joined the class, definitely do it. You want to do the reflection, but there's two assignments that have been done, the reflection and also the symbolism paragraph. So you should be able to do those. And there is another assignment that I have to upload. I think I just realized I haven't put it in Blackboard, but I'll talk about it today. Let's see. So I want to speak just a little bit about about closed forms, right? So let me get the elements of poetry up for a minute, and so that way you can all take a look at it. This. Is not coming up. All right. So let me do this. And this is for the benefit of the folks who are joining us today. I'm going to pull the. I'm going to go to Blackboard. This is not our class. And so I'm going to go to course content. Assign it first, okay? So I'm going to go to course content. So if you go to our class, for those of you joining us, this is where on Blackboard, the syllabus is here, right? Course content is where we keep the handouts and everything, and discussion is where the assignments are. So you would upload your assignments here to discussion. So I'm going to add another assignment today that is going to be due next week, not on Tuesday this week, but Thursday this week, but on the weekend. I'm going to go to course content, and we have our poetry, which is the element that we're studying now, the genre we're studying now, and the elements of poetry overview. Okay, so I just got that. I clicked it. I'm going to open it up, and here it is. So we looked at a lot of these elements of poetry. And so those of you who are here, and page 9, I believe it begins. So on page 9, they talk about free verse, which is the Pablo Neruda is a free verse poem, right? That means there isn't a structure. And then there's also the closed poem, right? An example of a closed poem or closed form is a sonnet, right? And a sonnet has 14 lines, has a specific rhyme scheme, and it's one of the most popular ones, right? So here is a Shakespearean sonnet, right? And the Shakespearean sonnet, we're going to look at it, right? So it says the rule says it has 14 lines and a specific rhyme scheme. So 14 lines. Let's see. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's 14 lines, right? There's no more, right? So it doesn't mean that every poem that has 14 lines is a sonnet, right? But a Shakespearean sonnet, right, or the sonnet is based on Shakespeare's form, right, has 14 lines. That's one of the rules, that it has to have 14 lines, right? It's just 2 rules, right? That it has to have 14 lines, right, and a specific rhyme scheme. And we're gonna show you a rhyme scheme, what the rhyme scheme is in a minute, right? So without reading it, right, yet, I want to show you the 14 lines, and then let's look at the last word of each line. Day, temperate, may, date, shines, dimmed, declines, untrimmed, fades, owest, shade, growest, see, and thee. Okay, so let me do a new document, right? And make it green. So that's right. So day, temperate, may, date.
Shines,
Wait, okay, you're gonna help me out, thank you. Temperate,
may,
may,
date,
mhm,
shines, dimmed, is DIMM apostrophe D. Declines, untrimmed, apostrophe D. Fade, OS, shade, growest, C, D.
let me make this big so you can all see it. Right, so these are the last words of each. These are the last words of each column, right? So what they call a rhyme scheme, they do it a couple of ways, right? They use the letters A, B, C, and D to mark the sounds that sound the same. So we start with the first sound, and it is the letter A. So the letter day is A. Is temperate rhyme with date? Temperate rhyme with date? The next word? I'll give it to you. No, it doesn't. Temperate and date don't rhyme. So
No.
B, right? Does may rhyme with any of the ones above?
Day.
Date.
Rhymes with day. So then that would be what? What letter would it get?
A.
A,
Right. And then date
And
temperate,
temperate.
would be that B. Okay.
B.
What about shines?
no.
No.
The whole new sound, right? So then we make that one C. Okay. Then dimmed. Does it rhyme with anything before it?
No, a whole new
No.
sound.
No.
So then whole new sound. So that gets a new letter. How about declines?
Shines.
Shines.
Shines. So it would get what?
A.
C,
Well,
Which one is it?
C.
C.
A.
All right. It's not a guessing game. So
No.
declines rhymes with which word?
shine,
Shines.
Shines. So what letter is shines?
C,
I see.
C, right? So it would get a C. So far, if we look at the pattern of the rhyme scheme, is A, B, C, D, C, and what is untrimmed? Rhyme with,
Dimmed.
dimmed,
Dimmed.
right? So if you have A, B, C, D, C, D. All right, let's go to fade. Does fade rhyme with anything?
date,
Jade. Day.
Not really.
Well, kind of, but not exactly,
Fade.
right? So
May.
fade is starting its own sound, right?
What
It's
about day?
close, but its own sound. So we go
day.
so we E.
E.
Whoops. E, and then oest
No.
would
No,
be F.
F.
Then shade,
Fade. A. Fade.
E,
Hmm?
F,
Oh, growest. Yes.
then this is a new one here, G, G, right? So this is the rhyme scheme of this sonnet, right? So if we were to break it up, right, into this, not, it's only one stanza, but you could, you know, if it was broken up into stanzas, you would look at it this way, right? That has A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and then a G, G, right? That is the rhyme scheme for a sonnet, right? And it's 14 lines. So I haven't read the sonnet yet, right? But we, if we were to look at, there's a poetry packet. And a poem that we have read. Right? So Kim Adenizio's poem from you, right, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines, right? And here's the rhyme scheme: complete and neat, of and above, blue and you, serpent and spent, kiss, persist, until, still, terrifying, trying. So if you were to trace the rhyme scheme of Kim's Adenizio's, it would follow this: A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, and then the last two lines rhyme with each other, right? And this one is C and D, and in hers, it's trying and the last two are terrifying and trying. So she is following, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. So Kim Adenizio, not only has symbolism, but we can identify it as a sonnet, right? Because it's following the rules of a sonnet, which are 14 lines with a specific rhyme scheme, right? And the rhyme scheme that she follows is the same pattern as the Shakespearean scheme. Now, is that going to change your life? I don't know, maybe. But the idea is that it goes to show how much poets are working so intently, not only picking the specific words, but sometimes some of them are even working with inside of a form. They're trying to make it fit in a form. So if you were all going to continue to become English majors and, you know, study poetry, you would need to learn all these forms, right? But just as people who are reading poetry, it's important to understand that there's a lot happening, right? And so maybe there's something about the form that you might want to study for your research paper later on that that you might want to go into. Then you could look at why do these forms? That would be for a deeper dive. But like another form that's on there is something called a haiku. And most of us hear haikus because even in elementary school, that's some of the first poems they teach us. And a haiku the rule of a haiku is 5-7-5, that it's only 3 lines of the poem and there's 5 syllables, then the second line is 7 syllables, and then the third line is 5 syllables. So the 5-7-5 pattern. And so sometimes it could be fun to try to write some of those kinds of poems. So I'm going to share the screen again so we can look at 1 or 2 other closed forms, but not too many. Let's see.
Professor, as you're sharing this, it's really fascinating what you're saying because, you know, reading poems is just about reading poems and wondering what's going through their head, but it's nice to know that there's a structure also.
Yeah.
They follow.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And I like that, you know, because because I mean, sometimes in my head I'm a little poetic, but maybe I just don't portray it or say it the right way. And but knowing the structure really helps, and it's really interesting about how poems have all these structures. I just thought, you know, people just said what they said and rhyme what they, you know, with their words. So it's good to know this. Thank you.
Yeah, and then not all of them follow a structure, but that there are structures, right? It's amazing. So here's another one. Here's an example of a haiku, right? So it says that it has, like I just mentioned, it's based on the number of lines. It has a traditional haiku has 3 lines, and the first line has 5 syllables, 7 syllables in the second line, and 5 in the third. And here's an example of a haiku called "If Not for the Cat," right? And here it is. If not for the cat and the scarcity of cheese, I could be content, right? If not for the cat and the scarcity of cheese, I could be content, right? Who do you think is speaking? Any ideas? If it wasn't for the cat and there's no cheese, I would be
The mouse, the mouse.
It could be a mouse, right? Most likely a mouse or a rat. If it wasn't for the cat and there's no cheese, I would be happy. But if you look at it, it says, if not for the cat, right? That's 5. And the scarcity of cheese, 7, I would be content, right? So they follow the rule 5-7-5 inside of a haiku, right? So 621. Okay, let's just read that poem. I guess we'll just. So let me go back to it. Share screen. Let's see. Let's do one more. Villanelles are so great. I like those. Rondeaus are good too. Yeah, let's do. I'm gonna do this one. So this is a rondeau.
Professor, I have a question about one that's supposed to be funny.
Okay. Yeah, ask it.
I don't know if you're gonna touch base on that one.
When I was gonna do one more, and then so tell me which one was it.
Let me find it. Just do it, and then I'll
Okay.
let you know which one it is.
All right. So here's a rondeau, right? This one, right? So a rondeau is a French form. It's written on 2 rhymes with 15 lines using the first part of the first line as a refrain. A refrain is kind of like a part of a song or part of something that gets repeated, right? So it has 15 lines, right? It's written on 2 rhymes. I mean, there's only going to be 2 kinds of rhyme schemes, right? It's going to be an A sound and a B sound, right? And then the first part of the line of the word is going to be a refrain. So let's do this one here on this page. Life is a dance, right? And if we look at it, if I just go to the rhyme, remember there's only going to be an A and a B sound. So we have do, few, right? Those are the same. Flare, care, those are the same. So that's A would be A and a B sound. Q, that rhymes with the first one again, that's A. Shoe, right? That's another A. Through, that's another A. And then pair, right? Goes back to the B sound. And then life is dance. And then milieu, right? Goes back to the A sound. View, back to the A sound. Air, back to the B sound, right? Dare, back to the B sound. And you, back to the A sound, right? So it keeps that, there's only 2 sounds. Then it says the first line, there's a part, I just use it right, in 2 lines, using the first part, right, of the first line as a refrain. So if you go to the first part of the first line, life is a dance, it repeats it. Life is a dance, there it goes again. Life is a dance, right? And it's 15 lines. So I'm gonna read it to you, right? So she says, life is a dance we were all born to do. The styles to choose from are more than a few. Some choose simple 2-step, some move with flair, some slow dance, some break dance, double make hair. Some freestyle while others just dance on cue. Some tangle with zest, some shuffle soft shoe, others glide easily, waltzing on through. Some change their partners, some stay one pair. Life is a dance. You start with the styles in your own milieu, then grow as you add on new moves you view. You'll stumble, but sometimes dance on sweet air. Just keep the beat, try new steps if you dare. For where you end up is all up to you. Life is a dance. Okay. So just sticking with this here, right? If we look at the first one, we'll just do a little bit of analysis, right? So we know there's rhyming, right? We know there is, so now let's see what else is here. She says, life is a dance we were all born to do, right? So she's comparing life to what?
To a dance.
to a dance, right? She's saying life is a dance. Is life literally a dance? Not always, right? Life is life. But she's using this, right? That she's using this metaphor, right? Because remember, if it's a simile, they use like or as, right? She could say life is like a dance, and that would have been a simile, but she's using it as a metaphor. Life is a dance we were all born to do, right? So all of us do this, right? The styles to choose from are more than a few, right? So how we live our lives or how we dance, right? She's doing this metaphor is more, we have different options. And then she goes through different, naming different kinds of dance, right? Some choose simple two-step, some move with flair, some slow dance, some break dance, devil may care, like do what you want. Some freestyle while others dance on cue, right? Some tango with zest, some shuffle soft shoe, others glide easily, waltzing on through. Some change their partners, some stay one pair. Life is a dance. So let me stop there for a minute, right? So she's taking this metaphor for dance and talking about life, right? And how you can dance from different styles, different kinds of ways. Like she said, for some it's easy, they waltz right through. She goes, some change partners, some stay a pair, right? And we know that in life, like sometimes you break up, sometimes you stay with somebody for a long time. So there's this whole parallel between dancing and partnering, etc. Right? Let's go back to it. And so we finish the end of the poem. And then she says, right, some change their partners, some stay one pair, life is a dance. She goes, you start with styles and your own milieu. Milieu is like what you know around you. That's what's in your own environment, right? That word. Then grow as you add on new moves you view, right? So then you grow as you learn new moves that you see and learn, right? Then she says, you'll stumble, but sometimes dance on sweet air. Just keep the beat, try new steps if you dare. For where you end up is all up to you. Life is a dance, right? That's it. So this is about, so inside of this poem, there's also all this movement, right? About waltzing through and glide and, you know, tango and two-step and moving with flair and dancing on sweet air. So there's all this movement in it. But if you look at what she does as well, is the way it's set up on the page. I'll make it a little smaller so you can see the shape, right? The lines don't start at the lines don't start at the end like this poem before it, right? All the lines here begin on the end, right? It starts on the left margin, but here they don't. They're kind of centered and they're moving in and out, right? It's moving in and out. And so even the way she lays the poem down on the page, there's movement, right? There's a shape, there's a movement to it. So let me just take chat for a second. Okay, this is good afternoon. So
I really like this, Professor, because I mean, it's so true. I mean, what you just described now, how she structured her paragraphs, and it's like, it's not just a straight line, and it's, you know, dance. We all have different dances, you know, and this is the way she describes it in her poem.
Yeah,
you
right.
know,
She gives us.
I mean, it's really great about how when I was reading the poem while you were reading it, I was like, oh my God, you know, that's what life is all about. You know, it's never a straight line. It's never a crooked line. I mean, it's just zigzag.
Yeah.
And the way I see that she's writing her poem, it's very that, you know,
Right.
There's really no structure, like beginning to end, and then next paragraph. It's about the rhythm. And
yeah,
for me, that's what life is about. You know, it's the rhythm. It's what you go through in life. And yeah, so I mean, it's really great. It's good to see that.
Cool. So so we could have fun with a lot of the different forms. Erica?
Yeah, is she's for that type of poem, is the way that she wrote it is the way that's supposed to be written, and that's just the way that she wanted to write it.
So what she you want to write it too? So what she decided to do when she decided to work in the Randu form, what she had to stick to was that double rhyme scheme, right? she had to stick to that, using the first part of a line as a refrain to repeat it, and she had to keep it to 15 lines, right? But the shape, the fact that she decided to do that, that's not part of Randu, but that's her, right? Saying, oh, this poem is about movement, right? And it's like, I wanted to have this flow. And so she put it on the page that way. That's why when I do the poetry packet, very often when I'm doing the poetry packet, I try to stay true to the line breaks and to the layout of the poem, right? And that's another thing that poets sometimes use, is the visual, literally what's on the page is something like that. So it's not part of the Randu form, but because this is a poem about movement and dance, she decided to lay it out that way. So you can look for that with other poems. So if you ever see a poem that doesn't look like it should be laid out, that should make you think, oh, what are they trying to do here? Why are they trying to make these lines do this thing? Because it may have, it will have a connection to the poem in some way, right? It's not arbitrary, right? Okay. 6:31, time flies, man, time flies. Let me talk a little bit about,
Professor,
let me talk, yes.
the one that I wanted to ask you was the epigram. I want to know if I understood what it said.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
No, you read it.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. So can we hold the epigram for a moment? Because I just want to talk about the next class, and then we'll go to that. And if I could do the Shakespeare one, that'll be fun too. I'm feeling I can't. All right. So so I want to repeat in case you joined us late. We so happy to see you all, or those of you who show me your faces are happy. Not that if you don't show me your face, you don't make me happy. I'm happy you're here too. But I mentioned that we have class today, but then now we don't have class on Wednesday. And so, and then after that, I think I'm just almost checking. Yeah, there's one more holiday on a Monday, Columbus Day, I see, in October. But at least for the rest of the month, we're good. So so we won't have class on Wednesday. What I would like you to do is look at the poetry, look at the poetry packet, any poems I've read or any poems we've discussed. But any of the poems that are in the packet, that are in the handout, like Life is a Dance is one of them that we said today. So you have a choice of any of these poems. I want you to just pick one of them, and I want you to write a couple things, right? So first, I want you to describe at least one theme in the poem, right? And then identify and discuss at least one poetic element that you discover. Okay, so it's going to be one theme. So let's say if we did Life is a Dance, you could pick one theme from Life is a Dance and one poetic element. So you're going to write a paragraph on each, right? You're going to write a paragraph on the theme of the poem, on the paragraph on a poetic element. If you want it, you could use first poem for you if you're still in love, if you want that, or Neruda, but literally any of them. So you just have to identify the theme, which is the main idea of it, and a poetic element. So I want to remind you that if you're writing a paragraph on each one, right, that the paragraph will begin with a topic sentence. So you would say, I'm discussing the theme, here's the poem, here's the theme, describe what a theme is. A theme is the main idea of a poem. And then in this poem, the idea is, unending love, or, a metaphor, a symbolism for the poet is comparing life to dance. And that's the main theme, that in terms of the way life is, the way dance is, it's, and you can talk about that. And then you could say, maybe the poetic element is metaphor. So you want to talk about what is a metaphor, and in this case, she's doing life and dance as a metaphor, right? That's an example of that one. Or, I think that's it, right? So do you understand? Does that sound clear?
The school has their own website of sweatshirts of the team.
Oh, hold on. All right. right? Is the assignment, I'll send you a follow-up email for the assignment. I know it says that it's due on Thursday, but it's not due Thursday. It's due on Sunday. Okay, so I'll send you the new due date. It's not 9/15, which is Wednesday, actually. It's not 9/15, which is Wednesday. It's going to be due 9/19, which is Sunday. Is that clear?
Yes.
Any
thank you.
questions on that? Okay.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
How you doing? This is Dylan Ash. This is my first time in this class.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Dylan.
Hello, how you doing? By any chance, after this class, are you available?
Yeah, I'm not available too long today, but I'm going to ask everybody who's here for the first time, all of you. Dylan, you're not the only one. There's about 2 other people that are just joining us for the first time today. So all of you just stay right after class. I'm going to do the epigram, and then we'll be done.
Okay, thank you.
Don't worry, Professor. I won't take time you can spend with the other ones. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we could do this. How about if we start with the epigram next class? Because we'll do more, right? So we'll start next class with the epigram, and we'll read some more poems in the next class together. And then also next week we'll do more exercises with poems and unlocking and doing all that. So that just to give you like a heads up, so the poetry essay I believe is due the 29th at the end of the month. So we have still at least 2 more weeks to work together on poetry and ask questions, and I'll go over the essay and the structure. We'll talk about the introduction, how to create the introduction together, and we'll talk about conclusions. So by the time you need to do your essay, we would have gone through all of the elements of the essay. So I assure you that we will do all of that. So then the other thing I owe you all are the recordings of the classes. So I will work on that. So the next time, I promise, when we come on Monday, I'll have all of our classes up on, there'll be a file with all of the classes so that you could, look back at the class in case there was something that happened in the class. You could take a look at the recording of it.
Oh, that'll be great.
I see where here on the screen, I see they wrote here record. When I click on this, it said, please ask the host to give you permission to record. I think the citizen should be able to record by itself.
Yeah, well, it's on my end, it's saying recording. I think it's recording me on my end. I think I have to remember to put it on.
Oh, okay.
I think it puts me on speaker view automatically. I think it always just records me mainly, and you're all. But yeah, we'll see. But once I get them all up.
It told me that you were recording the session when I signed in. So.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah, it's supposed to let you know that I'm recording. I'm not supposed to be recording you on the low. You're supposed to know. So that's why I said at the beginning that I'm gonna record you all. Okay. So I will send you an email about the assignment, and then that'll be that.
A detailed one, Professor.
Yeah, just it's there, but I'll just give you a little more information on it, and then it'll be due on Sunday. So it was great to see everybody, and I will see you all Sunday. Monday.
Thank you, Professor. It's great seeing everybody.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
And then
Professor.
those of you who are just stay on for a little bit and.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. So we have Dylan, right?
Yes.
Who else? Ninoshka, is it you new?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Yanidis.
And Yanidis, right? And then I think Nydia and I know Kapadanu have been here before, but they can stay here. So yeah, so welcome. I think the important. So maybe I should stop and say, do you have questions?
I guess my question was.
Oh, wait,
so I'm kind of